I use the Sony ZV-1F to film all my videos and even a podcast with a good friend. In this episode, I'll talk about this camera and how I use it as a non-camera expert enthusiast or whatever. Welcome to Golden Lion Speaks, the Tech I Use series. In this series, I will highlight and show and do little reviews for the tech that I actually use to make my videos or what have you. This video is going to be about the camera that I use and that you're seeing right now, the Sony ZV-1F. Now, I know you probably watched other videos because either you're looking at getting this camera or you already have it and want to just validate your purchase, in which case, as you can see, if you know what you're doing or can just learn what you're doing, because I can't say that I know what I'm doing, the camera can put out a pretty good image, and make it look somewhat professional. Obviously, you can get something like a Sony ZV-10 or any other hundreds of thousands of dollars more expensive camera, but this one I got at the time for about $400, but usually goes about $450. If you know what your settings and stuff are and can dial them in, this camera can actually do pretty well. So every time I switch footage, I'm going to put at the bottom of the screen what I'm shooting it on, because I'm probably going to shoot some of the beef footage on an iPhone. So I'll differentiate that. I also want to highlight that besides the vlogging, there's I say in the video third party, but it's actually Sony software called Catalyst Browse. Now, yes, it's an extra step, but if you run your footage through the software, it'll basically make it seem like it's going through a gimbal and smooth your software out. I will definitely show an image, but without it, let's get right into it. Let me show you some vlogging footage and you can see for yourself what it looks like.
So, because I am a man who likes to multitask, this weekend, besides doing this review and showing you this footage of my camera, I'm in the backyard grilling, smoking a whole chicken for the family this weekend. So what you're seeing here in this footage is just straight up auto mode, autofocus, auto everything. I'm using the onboard camera, all of that. And it's about, I'd say 6 p.m. in the afternoon, pretty dusky out here. The sunlight's pretty good. I got all the settings on auto except for the skin softening. Turn that off because we don't need to soften this. So I'm going to show you some more footage of me just walking and see what the stimulation is like, and I'm going to go out to my car here. So let's check it out. Just to kind of see what the image looks like here while I'm walking. So the first part of this video, I'm just going to show it with me just changing some of the light here. Get in the autofocus to see, and you can kind of see what the footage just looks like. And then another thing what I'm going to do is run this through Catalyst Browse, so you can kind of see what Catalyst Browse is like. So what Catalyst Browse is a third-party software that'll basically stabilize the image for you, so it looks a lot better. Now, I know you can get a more expensive camera and you won't have to do all that, but if you want to save some bucks, you can buy this bad boy and then use a Catalyst Browse software, and it'll make all of this be a lot more stable and less jittery. So first we'll run it with me just without it, and then we'll run it with me with it. All right, I'll be good.
I've never been the kind of guy to take a lot of photos, so these are photos that I specifically took for this review, just for this video. Don't y'all feel special? You should. And last but definitely not least, we'll talk about the biggest issue that people speak on this camera, and that's the autofocus. You may be looking at this right now and be like, oh man, you're so in focus, it looks so clean. That's because I'm using manual focus right now, because the autofocus will pulse in and out. Like if we're using autofocus right now, you would look down at the Fifine logo here and you would see that it's kind of coming in and out of focus. You may not know that because it does a really good job of focusing on your face as long as nothing's in the way. But if you just use manual focus and you're in stationary talking head thing like this, it looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is switch over to footage, and I'm going to turn on autofocus, and you can take a look and see what I'm talking about. All right, and we're back. Now I have the autofocus on. Now, funny, while I was setting this up, I discovered something. So like I said, I shoot with this camera all the time, and I also shoot a podcast with a friend. And we have pretty good image and facial recognition when I'm shooting with that. But it doesn't, the facial recognition feature, which I may or may not show you in a B-roll here, it has a subject recognition setting that will make you be able to set it to human. But I noticed when I'm plugging it into the HDMI into the CamLink so I can record all this in OBS, it turns that off. It just gives me regular autofocus. But what you're seeing right now is autofocus. And let me just do a couple of focus on the hand. Takes a minute. Now back out to my face. All right. And as you can see, I'll point to it, but I'm sure you can point to it, see yourself. The best way to see that how the focus kind of pulses in and out is looking at the Fifine logo here on my mic. It kind of goes in and out, especially if I move my hands around or something like that. So I would advise that if you're doing a talking head video or something like this for YouTube, that you just use the manual focus. And I'll show you a couple of settings for that after this, and then I'll sum this video up for you. All right, boys and girls, as promised, here is my camera settings. So as you can see on the screen here, I have my, that's not even the f-stop. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I don't even really know exactly what this stuff was called. I did when I looked it up on a video, but I believe this is called your shutter speed, and it's 1/60 because I'm recording at 30 FPS. And for what I understand, you want your shutter speed to be twice what your FPS is. So if you're recording at 30 FPS, you want 1/60. And if you're recording at, like, say 24 FPS, you're gonna record at 1/48, or this camera only has 1/50. And then the f-stop, I believe that's kind of like the focal length, I believe that is, and how wide your image is and how blurry your background can get. And then I have my ISO set at 125. So in order to set these in here for my camera, because I haven't really changed any of the settings, you click down and you can change your f-stop by rotating the circle here. I always just put it all the way down to its lowest. Click down one more time and you can change the shutter rate. Then if you hit your function button here, you can go into more of the mode stuff and kind of fix things. So this is your audio levels. I always keep mine at about 12 or so. I don't always use the audio directly out of the camera, but it helps with syncing up in post, as they call it, trying to sound like a professional here. I have my focus set to manual, but you can do the autofocus, which I'll have a little segment on that later. White balance, you can manual white balance that if you so inclined, but I use auto white balance because I'm in a studio setting and the lighting is not really changing. So once it's set, it's in there pretty good. Not using a picture profile at all. And for the ISO, you can go here and check that and kind of go up and down. You can see it affects the brightness. So when you're in a dark room with your own light, I usually just like to use whatever the lowest ISO is. And if we go into our actual menu here, you'll see this is how you change your file format and see what you want to record in. So if you want to do 1080p, you pick that one. 4K here. Movie settings, I don't really change any of that stuff. That's where I set your frame rate from 60 or 30 or 24. And this camera only does 4K and 30. That's why you only see in 30. If I change it to the other setting here, let's see. Yeah, see, now I can get 60. But now I want 60. So we're going to go to 4K. Bam. So then for the, let's see, manual focus, one of the things you want to turn on is peaking display. Now what that means is basically it'll show like a little, I don't know, like a color overlay for the images, for the part of the image that is focused in. You'll see what I'm talking about. I have my color set to blue, but you can set yours to whatever you want. So if I go into focus here and quick set focus, now let me move the camera around. As you see, you'll see things get into focus and they'll turn blue. If I can focus it, if it's that close. There we go. Yeah, see how things start to turn blue there? That's because they're now in focus. And you just move that around so you can get the most of it, and then your camera will be in focus, and that's how you focus it in autofocus mode. So let's just go back in there. Now, if you want to go to regular focus, you can go to, continuous focus, and then go in here and make sure that subject recognition is on, because when I plug it into my HDMI out to my computer, the subject recognition turns itself off, which makes the autofocus slightly worse, but only slightly because it's pretty bad already. And those are pretty much my main settings. And don't quote me because I'm not an expert. I pretty much copied these settings myself off watching other people's videos. And basically it has the newest Sony menu. So you can use the newest Sony menu. So even if someone that's doing a tutorial for, like, say, a ZV-E10, excuse me, it will probably still look pretty good. So that's it for now. Let me know if you guys have any other questions. But like I said, I'm not super advanced. This is definitely a beginner's camera, but I get the best image I can out of it. And it's definitely some trial and error, and you may have to do the same. So in conclusion, I actually really like this camera. I know you can buy something that's a lot more expensive and looks better and sharper, but it's definitely a step up from a phone. My iPhone records pretty good, as you can see, and I use some of it for the B-roll here, especially in ProRes. It's a little more easier on point and shoot, but you can get more advanced if that's what you want it to be. But a saying that is always said, and I'm not the one who originated this, is the best camera is the camera that you have on you. So if all you have is a phone, don't wait to spend the money so you can buy a professional camera. Get your iPhone, even get a USB mic like this one, plug it directly into your iPhone, and just start talking, man. Get on there and just show your face. This is the bravest and hardest part. I've had friends and family who have looked at my videos say the biggest and bravest thing was just putting yourself out there and getting out there. So I know a lot of you guys out there think I need an expensive, super nice camera, but it's going to be more in-depth and more crazy than you think with lighting and cameras and backgrounds and all this other kind of stuff. But I would just say, shoot with what you got. But when it comes to this camera, this is a great camera, especially if you can get a good deal on it. And with the proper settings, which like the ones I've showed you, and I'm sure you can look up others on YouTube, you can make this thing look pretty good. And with that, Golden Lion is out. Oh, wait, I got to do my normal thing. I forgot to tell you guys, y'all be good.